Alright, if you saw the first video on fragments, which you should have, you found out that a sentence has a subject, verb, and a complete thought. And if it doesn't have that, it's a fragmented sentence. It's incomplete. With run-ons, it's just the opposite. Not only is there a sentence there, but it runs on. It keeps going, as the name implies. So with a run-on, there is too much sentence. Somebody wants to get more information in there, but they have not used some kind of connecting word. They have not used a period or a semicolon in there to stop the thought. When I have my students do a little biography at the beginning of class so that I can get to know them, often I see a run-on in the very first sentence because someone will say something like, I was born in Phoenix. I have lived here all my life. They're so anxious to get that second point in there that they've forgotten something. I is a subject. Was is a verb. Was born. We have a complete idea here. I is a subject. Have lived is a verb. We have a complete idea here. So the sentence keeps going. Where is the connection between them? There is none. So we have to stop. We have to put a period here. We have to put a semicolon here. Something that will stop the thought, and then we go on to the next thought. Now, I see a lot of different kinds of run-ons in writing. You will hear about run-ons that there are basically two kinds. There are fused sentences and there are comma splices. I don't make a lot of distinction between them because they're both wrong. They're both run-ons. So the difference is that what I wrote here is a comma splice. It is a comma trying to splice together two separate sentences. If I just left out the comma, that would be considered a fused sentence. They're both fused together, trying to be one sentence, when in actuality they should be two sentences, or at least with a semicolon, two separate thoughts separated by that semicolon. Now, as I said, I see a lot of different kinds of run-ons. Some of the major ones I wrote up here on the board. One I would call an explanation run-on. Okay, so the sentence says, the figures for the first quarter were not good. Sales on toys were down 20%. So the figures for the first quarter were not good. This already has a complete idea in it. What the second part wants to do is to quickly explain what not good means. But sales on toys is a subject, a verb, and is a complete idea again. So the fact that it rushes on to explain, understandable, but does not work as far as sentence structure goes. So again, we're going to have to put a period here, or we're going to have to put a semicolon here. Semicolon is used a lot when you have two ideas that are closely related to one another, but you're not putting in any joining word, you're not putting in any connecting word, like and, or but, or yet, or so, or after, or while, or since, anything like that. Another kind of run-on is what I call the lack of connecting word run-on. And I'm including in these connecting words, words like okay, there are a lot more of them, but words like after, before, since, when, while, if, unless. The fanboys words as well, those ones that we identify as for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Those as well can put different ideas together into one sentence. When you don't use some kind of connecting word, then you might write a run-on like, okay, the example says he did not like her when she was hired. Her quirky personality began to grow on him. So again, two different ideas. They are related to one another, but I think I can see a definite connection as far as a contrast between the two thoughts. But we need to put that connection in there. Otherwise, we still have a run-on. How about but? He did not like her when she was hired, but her quirky personality began to grow on him. That shows a connection between the two ideas without having to see it run on. Another possibility would be to put although here at the beginning. Although he did not like her when she was hired, her quirky personality began to grow on him. Again, the word shows the contrast between the two ideas and puts those ideas together into one sentence, avoids the run-on. Another kind of run-on that I see frequently is misinterpreting the function of transitions. And I put some examples on the board. However, nevertheless, therefore, in addition, plus, next, then. Again, there are a lot more of them, but all of these words are not connecting words. They are words that show a relationship between two separate sentences, but cannot be used in that way. The one that I see most frequently misused is however. Students thinking that it's the same thing as but. It is the same thing as but in the meaning of it. It does not do the same thing as but in the function of it. In my previous example, he did not like her when she was hired, comma, however, her quirky personality began to grow on him. You can't do that. It's not the same kind of word. We could have used a semicolon there instead of the comma. Semicolon, however, comma, her quirky personality began to grow on him. That would be fine. If I get an email from someone saying something like, okay, I see in my email a student is going to have a problem with attendance next week, and he or she says to me, I need to be in job training next week, however, I should be able to attend every class meeting for the rest of the semester. I am going to say that's a run-on. Okay, so we see a contrast between those two ideas, but however, with a comma is not the word to do it. It is going to be but. So what we could do is put a semicolon here, or let me use a period this time, and we'll put a capital H on however, and to pick that up in the lesson on commas, we'll talk about that later. There should be a comma after however. This will work. This is not a run-on anymore. We have a complete idea here. We have a complete idea here that is related to that complete idea, but when we use one of these words and other transitions, we have to do it that way. We can't do it with a comma because it will be a comma splice. So how do you get better if you have a problem with run-ons? One thing that you can do is to proofread your essay with the idea in mind that each of the sentences, if we have two subjects, two verbs, two complete thoughts, has to have something in it. It needs to stop, and then we'll pick up the next sentence, or it has to have some kind of joining word, connecting word in there that will make sure that the essay is running smoothly and does not suffer from sentences that want to go on and on and on. One piece of advice I give my students is, if you are typing with 12-point font and you run into a sentence that is 2.5, 3 lines, 4 lines long, you really need to look at that sentence and determine whether that is a complete sentence or whether you have gone on and on too much.